we mentioned Jarrett Stidham. Who do you think should be replacing Tom Brady as they look to move forward?
Well, there's several names that you could come up with. One of the names that I like is Andy Dalton. I know that over the last 3 or 4 years it's been a little rough for him when you're playing in Cincinnati. These are the kind of things that can happen to you. You can suffer the consequences of your association and your affiliation. His first 5 or 6 years in the league, his first 5 years in the league, he had a winning record. After his rookie year, he went 5 consecutive years completing better than 61, 62% of his passes. And so when I think about him and the potential that he has, and him obviously starving for a different, more structured and beneficial situation to himself, considering the fact that he's never won a playoff game in his life because he was playing for the Cincinnati Bengals, and his, him being accustomed to the AFC to some degree. If Bill Belichick is who we all think we know he is, I think he could do something with an Andy Dalton. And I think that Andy Dalton still has some potential left in him.
Yeah, I would say Dalton is a name you hear, but I like 2 ideas that are not really being talked about much. One is Taysom Hill. If the Patriots can make an offer that can pry him away, that New Orleans doesn't match Taysom Hill is interesting to me. I know he's thought of around the league as a gadget player. I've always thought he's more than that. The guy has an arm. He's smart. He can run through a brick wall and will do it. He's very fast. He can catch passes, and sometimes that kind of the plethora of skills, right, along the entire spectrum of talent obscures what is most valuable, which is if you can play quarterback and do a lot of those things. Lamar Jackson, because he's fast, right? But we've seen Taysom Hill do things that Lamar Jackson hasn't, like catch passes and play fullback, running back, the whole thing. So that can kind of get obscured. But he can play quarterback to the point where Sean Payton believes he's the next quarterback of the New Orleans Saints. So I think that's one. And the other is Matthew Stafford. Detroit won 3 games last year. No, they want to keep Stafford because it'd be a cap hit. They want to keep Stafford because they want to compete. They won 3 games last year, and Stafford has always been an elite talent who has achieved like an upper middle class quarterback, but in fact has elite talent. I'd love to see what Belichick could do if he got his hands on him.
I think Andy Dalton is going to be the name that's thrown out because I believe, to me, that was a name that was kind of connected to the New England Patriots when rumors started to go around that Tom Brady would be entering free agency and he would be testing out the waters in other places. But when you look at Andy Dalton, you say to yourself, what is Andy Dalton without weapons? What did we see with him when he had no A.J. Green? This is a guy who has been on the decline through the last few years, even though he was off to a hot start where he actually made it to a Pro Bowl. And then you go back to Taysom Hill. I know we always kind of hear that Sean Payton thinks Taysom Hill is Steve Young and Sean Payton believes all these things. What I do know is for 5 games last year, Sean Payton did not have Drew Brees. And the person that was not the starting quarterback was Taysom Hill. It was Teddy Bridgewater, who is now in Carolina. So that tells me all I need to know about Taysom Hill is that he's great doing all of those other things and giving you some spot play at quarterback. But he's not necessarily a guy you want to bet your future on at the position. And this is with Sean Payton having an opportunity to get him those reps that would have said, you know what, you are the heir apparent to Drew Brees. I know this name won't be thrown out there, and I know a lot of people won't think this makes sense, but I like the name Cam Newton. Cam Newton is now going to be a guy who can seek a trade, not because he asked, but because the Carolina Panthers signed Teddy Bridgewater. And so now you look at what the New England Patriots have been offensively for decades, and that's been an offense that can morph into anything that they need to be to win football games, whether it's run first or if it's a game where they're going to use the short passing game or if they feel like they have a matchup on the outside that they can exploit. So that's a team that with a guy like Cam Newton who can do a lot of the things that Max said Taysom Hill can do, but we also know when healthy, he can actually start at quarterback and win football games, even an MVP. If Cam Newton is healthy, if he's a guy that you feel that you can have a piece of for 1 or 2 years and then move on with a younger guy, that's someone I would explore, talk to, try to get into my building when it's time and we can to see if we can win football games.
Ryan, I disagree with that for a couple of reasons. Number one, I mean, and I know you qualified it by saying if he's healthy, no question about that. For some reason, I always looked at Cam Newton. I thought his release was a little bit slow. I thought he took a little bit longer to get rid of the ball compared to Brady. I also look at Cam Newton, and I think about the pressure of a name brand like Cam Newton succeeding Tom Brady in Foxborough, working for Bill Belichick. I'm not sure that works. When I think about Cam Newton, Ryan, the team that comes to my mind is the Chicago Bears. That's what I think about because in Chicago, he succeeded Mitchell Trubisky. He just has the pressure to perform. He doesn't have the pressure of succeeding a legend. And I think that's the difference, and that's why I didn't mention him with New England. With Andy Dalton, the expectations are going to be limited to some degree. You find him, all right, listen, he's coming from Cincinnati. He hasn't had the greatest time. We don't have the weapons necessary, or at least elite weapons at this particular moment in time. Just try not to mess up too much. That's what you're looking for from Andy Dalton. In the case of Cam Newton, the expectations would be loftier. I think that could potentially work against them in New England with Bill Belichick succeeding Tom Brady. You don't have that issue in Chicago if you were to succeed Mitchell Trubisky. And you've got that defense, which is elite. Not to say you don't have it in New England.
Yeah.
You certainly got a defense in Chicago that could help you along as well. I think Chicago's a better situation for Cam than New England.
I don't necessarily disagree with that, but that doesn't mean that New England can't work. That doesn't mean that we've seen many people who have been perceived to be issues or that have been perceived to be a certain way get to New England, find a way to work in the Patriots way, and have success there. And I think Cam Newton could be the same. The other thing about Cam Newton is no matter who succeeds Tom Brady, there's going to be a microscope on you. You're still going to be succeeding the greatest quarterback of all time.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.